We're live. All right, Joe, how are you doing, bud?
Pretty good. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I have not done a formal interview podcast in a long time, in like a couple months, just because it's fucking hard.
Hear that?
But I wanted to introduce you. So you are Joey Estrict. You want to let us know what you do, and so I could just butcher it and tell it and from my angle. But why don't you just tell us?
Yeah. I'll do the short intro, and then you can take it from there. All right. My name's Joe. I'm Joe Estrict. I always wanted to work in radio. Kind of pivoted and wheeled my way into where I need to be at. I'm currently an associate producer, morning show at iHeartRadio, and then a part-time board op at CBS Sports and at CBS Sports WFAN and at Sirius XM.
Wow. Jeez. And so CBS is a new one, right?
That's CBS. That's actually that building is where I got my first board op work. I was working on the music side of stations, like pre-COVID, early COVID.
Sure.
And as things downsized and they kind of shut down studios, I got phased out of there and ended up back at iHeart. But just recently restarted with CBS.
Wow. So restart. Okay, so you started. Okay, they came back, and then so iHeartRadio, Sirius, CBS. I'm sleep deprived, so apologize for any if I miss anything. If I'm not like as snappy as I should be, should have had a cup of coffee before this. I apologize. But so you have been okay. That's okay. CBS is terrestrial radio, right? That's
Correct.
That's called.
Yeah,
Are they
there's a
all
streaming
terrestrial?
component as well, but
Okay.
Sirius is satellite.
Is satellite. So there's terrestrial, because that's like FM radio is what you're working on at CBS, right?
Correct.
And so it's FM and then satellite and then iHeart, which is streaming, right? But there's a streaming component to the CBS.
Correct. And then iHeart is terrestrial as well,
the
and the
FM.
station's on AM. So I'm pretty much working across the
I
bands.
lost you for a second. Let's see, wait for it to come back. All right, you're back.
Sorry.
That's okay. Hopefully they don't feel it, but I'll just fill in the blanks whenever I can't wait till we can do this in person. But for now, this will have to do. Goal wise, is this something? Did you always want to be a radio producer? Is this something you always wanted to do? We've known each other for a long time, but I, like a jerk, I've never really asked you, like, yo, dude, Joe, what do you want to do with your life? And so I apologize for that. So did you always want to do this? Did you want to do this back when we were on the football team together?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Radio's been something I've been interested in for a long time. Our high school really didn't have any type of radio program. I know there was a TV production,
yeah,
but
there was.
That wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, so I kind of stayed away from it. But yeah, man, I could just remember so early just driving around road trips and just listening to the radio in the cars and getting used to like the setup of the morning zoo type TV shows, like the afternoon drive. And then like Mike and Mike, the sports show just before school, even though it was for more than sports, just became such a staple. And because it's been gone the past few years, I've kind of just focused on whatever takes the role or whatever takes like the spot of that show, which is such an iconic show. I want to be in some capacity involved in creating that product. I think that's really like my big end goal. I want to, whatever replaces Mike and Mike in the mornings, I want my name attached to.
Okay. Have you always did you want to host, or do you like producing? What's your angle?
I've kind of gone back and forth. I like the role of producer. I think it gives you a little more, I guess, control in the direction of every aspect of the show. And I'm a bit of a control freak. Right. And I just like kind of being the guy behind the mic that only has to step in for like secondary opinions. It sounds easy, but it's kind of hard to fill like 4 hours worth of content every day.
It is.
So sometimes the pressure of that I could see being a bit much. And it's a lot easier just to be like, all right, here's what you're going to talk about for 4 hours and lay out.
Go. And but you mean that like oh my God, I'm going to fall off. I decided to use my piano bench for this like an idiot. So you mean in a producer spot, but like also being kind of third mic, like coming in there and saying stuff, like being like, hey man, like, hey, like throwing stuff out there, still being kind of behind the scenes, but in there, right? Which is very different which is found like like I noticed that from the podcast. It's in the podcasting world, right, where you hear the producer all the time, right? But in the like TV world, it's like no, right? And in radio, I feel like I don't know how much I hear the engineering and board kind of chiming in from what I've heard, really. But like, is that what you mean? You mean like kind of like a 10%, 90% this, like one third kind of host it, like speaking.
Yeah, I think 1/3 versus 2/3 production, probably like 1/3 on air. I think it's probably the good mix, perfect balance.
Right. And do you enjoy editing audio as well, or do you just prefer the live, just like straight to live?
Nah, I'm kind of a nerd. I like sitting down with WAV files.
You do.
Yeah, I like taking my time to just make things sound as crispy as possible. Working with multiple sources, layering tracks, all of that. It's it can be much, but when you get lost in it and then you kind of really nail something, you put a project together and make it sound so much better than it did before. It's it's rewarding.
It is. I agree. There is a part of getting lost in it. It's like that is something like just when you get lost in editing. Like I find that when I'm editing video, like when I could get really into it, I get really into it. But that is, I'm kind of like more of like, oh, hey, I want attention. I want to be out there, right? So like, I don't mind being on the live side of things, like, and I love like working on a live side of production. There's something so exciting about that, right? I wonder if you can relate to that. There's something that's like, oh my God, we have to have everything right now. There's like that stress, that demand is just like, just go. And like, and you have to get all the technical stuff together, and that's really fun. But like, and it just there's something about that live radio piece, or just like live content that just really drives me in like live streaming. But I don't know if you feel that way, maybe, or do you think it's just too much pressure? Or do you think it's like, yeah?
No, I mean, most of the shows that I work with are live. So, and that aspect, I'm in studio. It's not as much pressure, but the live element, honestly, it kind of keeps you on your toes. I've noticed you're a little less engaged with pre-recorded anything, or even if you're just not working with the host or any of the talent directly in studio, it's not the same type of connection. I know a lot of the radio world pivoted towards doing things over Microsoft Teams and video conferences and stuff like that, but it's just not the same. You can't get on the same page as somebody unless like maybe you've had that chemistry before, but there's nothing like being in there and then, when you're running over on time and then you're able to look over at somebody and land the ship versus, being over some type of digital means of communication, and kind of if the ship gets landed, you'll find out when it lands. It's,
right.
It's a little crazier.
And so Mike and Mike, that's your inspiration, right? I'm not as familiar because I just don't know. That's a sports show. I apologize.
No problem.
I come from, it's so funny. Like when I got a car in high school, like radio became so important to me. I fell in love with radio, and like specifically college radio, and because they were playing metal, and I was like, oh, I'm in. All right, cool.
Like, WSOU, I get it.
What was that?
The WSOU?
Yeah, WSOU. Oh my God, that's my station. It got me into like everything I liked in high school, right? Towards the end there, and that's what really stuck with me. For some reason, the morning zoo stuff didn't really connect with me. It was like very like I couldn't really keep track of the personalities. My head was just like I felt overwhelmed, right? But when it came to podcasting, I love podcasts. But do you find so? What I had a question for you in regards to that is that
sure.
What do you think is kind of the future of radio? Is that weird and you could be like, no, that's weird to ask, man. I work in this. Like, I can't just be like, hey, there's no future in radio, or you know what I mean? Like, you could say that to me and just be like, John, no.
No, I'm not going to completely shoot myself.
What do you think is
future? Is there a future here? There's no future. There definitely is. The pivot to digital. Like, I think more projects like this. I think from an aspect point of just fan engagement, the big thing that's always driven programs like this is having like a dedicated, loyal fan base. And giving this level of access is something that wasn't available before. You can have somebody that says they have a radio voice, or like they have a face for radio. Now it's kind of hard to hide away without, having some type of secondary, even more so for some people, engagement with your fans outside the show. So I think,
Right.
the future of radio, it's completely digital. It's reaching people on all aspects, not just through smart speakers and streaming devices like that to get your shows across, but using social media and other platforms to literally speak directly, more live streams with fans, pre-show, post-show. I think engagement's what's going to drive most things, because if you have a dedicated fan base in any aspect, you can really grow your show that way. It's not so much where the content's so overwhelming that you can talk about anything and everybody will just show up. I don't think we really live in a time like that where one major piece of media will take all those fans, but everybody has what they like, and you can kind of create your market and they'll push your demand for you.
You think that people need to stick in a niche and not kind of like broad content, like without like the personality that's driving it, right? Like I just like that's very hard to discover, right? So
correct. It's almost impossible unless you're like a one of one. You have to be a virtuoso to be able to span across different topics, and somebody who's a casual listener who just maybe knows those topics with the base level of understanding can hear you speak on it eloquently enough that you're like, oh wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. There's not many of those. Nobody's going to give you like baseball updates, stock market updates, and then tell you what's going on in like geopolitics. It's difficult.
Right. You could have that conversation at like maybe a cocktail party, but not every cocktail party needs to be a podcast, right? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, everybody. Yeah. And that's why I kind of started this thing up again and been asking some friends to jump on to I call this stupid questions, right? Because I have a lot of dumb questions in regards to a lot of things, and I'm very curious, but they're really and really the stuff I wanted to ask about is like, is that a stupid question? Is there a future in radio? I think there's definitely a beauty to terrestrial radio. There's something amazing about radio. There's something I have an uncle-in-law, and he's got one of those setups in his basement that has the where you could talk across the world using the radios. And
nice.
What's that? I forget what that's called.
The Comrex system.
Is that it? Okay, yeah. And you could just talk to people all over, and it's shortwave radio or something. And I just think it's something so cool about that analog stuff, and there's something that's really missing lately. Do you think that talent and the current corporate world of and just like people who were just doing this radio stuff before, are they exhausted by how engaged they have to be all the time? Like how they have to be like on socials, how they just can't go on the show, do a great job, they're done. What do you think? Yeah.
I'd say more than not are exhausted. I've noticed, especially in the past couple of years, there's been a huge kind of shift from, I mentioned producer responsibilities kind of cross over into on air. That bleeds both ways. There's a lot of people who were doing strictly on-air work that now have to do a lot of their own production. So when it works too on top of that, having to manage social content and fan outreach and stuff like that, there's some people, a lot of younger people, who catch it much quicker. Older people, I've noticed in the industry, they have a much harder time kind of meeting those demands. They didn't grow up on those technologies. It's not as native to them. And in those aspects, I've noticed they usually need managers to kind of handle that side of things. Whereas like you and I, we, didn't grow up with like TikTok, but TikTok's out now. It's not entirely native. It's really hard to teach somebody who grew up not using AOL even, hey, you have to post once a week. Like they're not going to be able to keep up with that.
No. And do you find that so does talent need a lot of like assistance with like, just, does everybody need a social media manager? Everybody need yeah, really.
I would say, yeah, I think everybody would be able to benefit best from having it, just because if you're working in this industry and your main, goal going in was to just be a content producer and the means of making radio, you might be taking something away from what you're actually focused on to make sure that social's good. Let somebody that's good at that handle it, just focus, kind of let everyone do their own thing on what they actually want to focus in. Because it feels inorganic too. Fans will notice if you're just posting for the sake of posting.
Yeah, and there's something to when people take their social media very like it feels very like real. It feels like it's them. It feels like they're posting. It doesn't feel like they're just spam like some social media guys like I gotta get paid. I get paid per post, so I gotta like really amp this up. And And you could tell that they're not really engaged with their socials as well. But it's so important to be out on multiple mediums, right? So people can do you enjoy doing the socials aspect, or is it just editing, production, and on air for you? Do you enjoy the social piece as well?
Funny enough, for the social side of things, I haven't had to do much in my more current roles. Previously working in promotions and marketing at Odyssey, or it was Entercom at the time, I had to do more on that side.
Right.
I mean, you follow me on social. I don't post very often, but I'm a big story
guy. Yeah.
So I feel like that aspect of it, if you can kind of just find something every day that, you know, it's fun for you, but like if you do it, people be like, oh man, keep doing these.
Yeah.
Like something. Everyone has something that is familiar to their commute or specific, unique to just what their daily routine is.
Yeah.
You know, it's little things like that. Like you mentioned, it's the things that make people more real. It's those kind of things that you share that people are like, you know what, more of this.
Right. Going forward, do you want that to be more a part of your role, or is that not something that you want to focus on?
It's something that if I had to focus on more, I'm not opposed to. But like I mentioned earlier, I think having social media managers at least for show pages and things like that, I think you'd much more nail a singular voice having one person in charge of those things versus you know, trying to focus on putting the show together, producing a show, and then focus on that too.
Great. So would you say that that like 10 years from now you want to be doing, like, or let's just say 5 years from now, you're doing exactly what you want to be doing right now, which is not really touching the social stuff, focusing on the production stuff, and then some of the editing stuff? Or do you think where do you want to be? Yeah.
Within 5 years, I think that's a two-pronged question. Within 5 years, definitely more so on the production side and a little bit of the on-air side as well. 10 years, programming, coordination. I kind of want to be more so out the mix, but you know, sometimes you hear you're on one station and you just don't change it. And you know, 6-7 songs roll through and they roll into a show, they reset, and then they have a few like 6-7 songs in a row, and next thing you know, it's 90 minutes. You're like, wow, I haven't changed the dial once. I want to be the guy that's in charge of putting that together. Not even just a DJ sitting there. I want to know, you know, before Saturday even rolls up, that I was sitting in my office on a Monday thinking, okay, what programming block will sound the best? I think that's a little more removed, but it still allows me some type of creative control.
Right. So you want to be like really high level, like just like managing the radio station basically from the top.
Yeah, that's the goal, man.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool. I think that's really interesting. What kind of radio station would you, and just tell me if you're just like, hey, stop talking about this stuff, like, because my job's like, they don't want to hear that I'm coming after this guy's job. Just tell me to shut up.
No, that's the problem. I'm not stepping on any toes by sharing my ambitions. I just hope that, you know, I get to see it all pay off, so we can look back at this interview and be like, oh wow, you really did it.
Yeah, we'll have regular conversations. If you want to, whenever you want to do this again, just let me know, and we'll just keep it going. I have a hard enough time getting people to agree to do this anyway.
Absolutely.
But it'd be great to have you also, and just to catch up. But from that piece, what kind of radio station would you want to have? What would you want to? Would it be just a pure sports station? Would it be terrestrial? Where would it be? Because I think that'll kind of give insight into, like, you know, maybe where things are going.
Yeah. At least in the meantime, the way I've always viewed it is because of my sports fandom. I'm very tuned into local teams. So like the ideal of having something, a sports show, terrestrial, that can kind of nail specifically like what's going on in the area, and then branch out a little bit to talk about, you know, some national stories. But I think starting there would allow me the most, ability to use my expertise, where I wouldn't have to push so hard for sourcing and always trying to come up with content. These are more so things I'm consuming every day anyway, so it's not so difficult to talk about. Right.
Do you, when you say local, like, do you mean like hyper local? Do you mean like talking about like, here's what the D1 teams are doing in the area, here's what the minor league teams are doing out here? Because I feel like there's not enough of that, and I really want more of that, because I want to feel more.
That's what I mean. Even down to like the important county sports, local high school sports. If it's concerts, big events, things like that, because there's not one main place to kind of get those things.
Right.
And
there isn't.
I myself, as somebody that tries to keep just in touch with local sports, I find myself kind of stretching around, looking for, I'm on Google, I'm on Twitter, Max Preps, like Varsity 8, and just searching different things to try to just keep up, just to feel in the know, versus having one known platform where I can just go. I'd appreciate it myself. So I want to fill that void if I can. So, people that have similar interest or a similar need for what I'm talking about can just, click on one show, get all their updates.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great if if everybody, if there was that for everywhere. But I would just like it for this area because Jersey's the best. But
can't disagree. We also have the best bagels and pizza.
Best bagels and pizza. This guy, you get it. No, it's so true. We could talk about bagels and pizza for a while. But I had both today.
We'll save that for next episode.
Yeah, exactly. Right. When it comes to, so do you think you'd have any music on your channel, or just it'd be like that's transition period. There's transition music. It's talk. It's sports talk all day, 24/7. Let's go.
Yeah, I think I would definitely have too much fun with the music bags, opens and close. It wouldn't just be like a 5 second in, 5 second out to get right to it. No, I like to ease in. I like to, let my songs play if I can. And especially for radio, I love, and this is like a little life hack, I love playing, I'm a 90s kid myself, I love playing the original version of like a popular song from then, whatever their sample was pulled from. Right. Just seeing like who knows the sample, and they're like, oh, I know that song.
You're right. Yeah. It's amazing. I was just watching a TED Talk given by Mark Ronson about how sampling changed music. And I love that, just all that talk about how, and he said, all music is building upon older music, right? It's like all of it, like that's what music is, right? It builds on it, right? So like, covering samples, that's what it's all about. And so I love that. I love finding out like where something was sampled from and where it came from, or like what it evolved from, or what it was kind of a copycat of, and what it was influenced by. And it's amazing. But do you like right now? Do you just handle like the talk radio, or do you do music as well right now?
No, right now I'm not doing music. Previously at CBS, before I was there on the sports side, I was doing music. I was on. I got to do CBS 101, which is Greatest Hits. That was awesome. I got to do 92.3. The alt station. Yeah, that was cool. I even got the board out for a country station, which is now a hip hop station.
Oh, how cool!
But if I can get back and do that, it's classic hip hop, so I kind of feel more connected to it. But yeah, music and sports, I'm probably equally passionate about the two. If I can meld them perfectly, but there's not a perfect meld. Okay. But I would love to have a sports-focused show in which people know me for playing awesome music.
Yeah, no, that's really great, because there's some crossover with that. I know that because I really don't know anything about sports. I remember like I was real out of sorts even back then when we were on the team together. Do you have to wrap up? If you do?
No, I have another 5 minutes or so, man. Yeah.
I'll stop talking about myself then. And I'll just this one tidbit. I don't know anything about sports, right? And I didn't know anything back then, and back when we were on the team together. And I just remember what's interesting to me is when I'm like, oh man, I really love this song, and then I talk to someone and I'm like, yeah, I heard that on the Madden soundtrack, and I was like, oh that's how you get introduced to this stuff. And I'm like, and they're like, yeah, oh man, I really love the song on the Tony Hawk thing, and I was like, oh, that's how you get introduced to this stuff. And it's like, I get it. It's the sports is the crossover, and there is, I think, a crossover. I think music can touch everything. I think that's really cool that you'd want to do kind of that combination. Do you feel like creatively, I think that just have two last questions, and then you can then or you could just leave. I mean, whatever you need to do.
Now we can get through these questions. It's been fun, man. I definitely don't mind doing this again in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Glad to hear it. I'll try to throw this up as soon as possible. I'll get it up on everything. And if there was, I try to put something on Spotify. Oh, there's a third question. maybe we could just text about it, but I try to throw like an individual episode just for Spotify where I add like a song at the end, which is the person's favorite song. So let me know if you think about it, like what song you'd want to be at the end there. And if you had an idea of like what your favorite song or album is of all time, like I'd love to know. But do you have it offhand?
Music I roll through all the time. Just if you're asking me to put me on the spot, Off the Wall, Michael Jackson, such a great album. Especially at the end of a long week, I think that's what it's meant for. You throw that, you cruise straight through, and you're instant good mood.
It's Michael Jackson's what? Which album is it?
Off the Wall.
Off the Wall. Got it.
Album before Thriller.
Album before Thriller. Off the Wall. And then, so two things. Like, are you creatively satisfied with because of all the stuff you're getting to do as a producer, or do you feel like when you come home, even though you're working your butt off at these 3 different places, that you're like still like, oh my goodness, I really still need, because there's all these avenues like the one I have now, right, where do you feel like you're getting all your needs fulfilled, or is there like, oh my god, I still need to just do this thing on my own,
I don't feel fully creatively fulfilled. I think because of the job specifically, and we talked a little bit about bass playing, that's kind of taken a back seat to making sure that my career takes off the way I want it to. But I love just jamming out, just being able to play music. You see right there.
Right.
I'm somewhere around the room. I can't spin the camera around so much 'cause I'm stationary on a desk right now. But yeah, man. It's music. And then even being able to just create like video podcast outlets like that and playing video games. That's just something that it doesn't mean much. It doesn't create anything tangible, but being able to just burn a few hours and just listen to music, and it like that is it's an art for me. Like it feels like an art, and to not be able to do it so much, it's definitely something I want to build back into the schedule, and I'm hoping that now with this recent promotion, I can kind of pivot my schedule to allow more of that.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like it's so important to have like the 50-50, like input, you need input, and you need to have the output. It's so important to get that input, and you really don't, like, you lose it if you don't. That's like something that's really important in this book, The Artist's Way. That's a good one. So creatively, you still want to, maybe we could work on some stuff and where we could, play some video games, do some podcasting, play some music. That's what I do kind of on the, with my stream and stuff. So if you ever want to jump in on that, let me know. We'll talk, but if you ever have any free time, so
free time soon comes. So we'll make it work for sure.
We'll make it work. Yeah, we'll do something. And then something that I like to ask creative people: is editing, producing, is all that stuff? Do you find it? Are you having fun? Does it make you happy? Right. Does that stuff?
It doesn't stress me out. Deadlines, sometimes the pressure of a deadline can be something, but I actually do enjoy sitting with an audio file and just being able to just kind of go to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you enjoy that. So the job is really fulfilling. So you're energized by it. It's not like, oh my God, that day, oof, I'm out. Like, it's just the amount of time that you get to put into it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it doesn't
I don't always.
Like that.
That's great. Yeah, no, I've asked that question before on a podcast that I've done, and the answer to that question, the answer was F no. It's not fun, and it's a pain in the butt, and all this stuff. And I was like, interesting. It's always a question I have for artists: is it fun for you, or is it just a painful process? But that's really great to know that it's energizing for you, and I can't wait to see everything else you do, Joe. It's been really inspiring seeing like how much you're doing, and I think what you're doing is really cool, really interesting, and I've always love that, just to have friends who are doing stuff that's really cool and interesting, because I get to live vicariously through that, just seeing your journey. And thank you.
I appreciate
it so much. Yeah.
No,
it's
awesome.
For
having me, man.
Of course. Joe, you got to get to another shift, so I'll let you go. I'll stop recording. Is there anything you wanted to plug at the end here before I end?
I'll just throw my social up. Twitter and Instagram, it's the same. IR Joe, kind of like IR Weasel, spelled out. And yeah, man, I'll definitely be back soon.
All right. Okay. IR Joe, IARE, and then then Joe, right? Joe, right?
Correct.
So at AR. Okay, I'll put that in the description. I'll throw that up. I'll stop the recording. Thank you so much for being here, and then we'll still be on. So we could say everything we didn't want to say if recorded. All right. Thanks, guys.